Namaskar. What is wrong with our educational system? I do not mean any country in particular, but the entire world basically has the same educational system. It's very old and it is geared to produce certain things in a human being, certain skills, so that the person will be useful for the society and also he will be able to earn his livelihood. What's wrong with that? That portion is okay. But some few important things are really missing. If I would be in charge of this world, what are the 3 things that I would introduce to the educational system of the world? I wouldn't do it myself, of course. I believe in professionalism. I would try to find the best, the brightest, the most courageous educators in the world, and I would put them together with this vision, with this goal to introduce 3 important things in the educational system. And they would work and they would create many different models, and we would try to experiment with all those models, and then finally we would arrive at a better version of education than of what we have now. The first thing I believe very much missing in education is the idea of, to be honest, the idea of God. But now many people are just like, oh, what? You know, there are people who are Christians, who are Hindu, Muslims. Which God? Which God should we introduce? And there are atheists also. They don't think God is a good idea. But I believe we can find a consensus here. Because what is God actually? Is an idea of supreme perfection. You may not believe in a supernatural being out there, but we can believe into the goal. We can move towards that supreme perfection. And that is all right for all, for everybody, for Muslim, for Christians, for the Hindu, for everyone, for the Buddhists. It's all right. Some moral ideal, an idea of infinite knowledge, an idea of perfect balance and justice, an idea of perfect kindness, perfect love, and great power via technology, via the power of the mind, via the power of the soul, the spirit. That is all there in that idea of infinity. In the yogic context, it is said that the child of 5 years old has to be introduced to the idea of infinite supreme consciousness. And that idea, not simply that exists such a thing, but this is your potential. And the life is the process of growth towards that supreme potential. So our education system has to develop that feeling of continuous striving, of continuous endeavor towards the greatness. Normally, why am I getting into education? My parents, they used to say to me, if you are going to study not well, then you are going to be like that man, look. And that man, you know, he is carrying some sacks. Underpaid, underprivileged. You want to be like that man or like that man? So, study. That was their motivation. So we study to monetize our knowledge. We get the knowledge, we get the job, and we get the money. Basically, we study for money, for livelihood. But there has to be different idea. Education forms you, shapes you in maths, in physics, everywhere. Then you are not going to search anywhere else. The school will be like, wow, Mom, I'm in school. And now, because of the coronavirus, there are many talks about the distant education. Maybe we need to close the schools and just study via the computer and distant tutors. And personally, I think there is a great potential in VR, the virtual reality. But I think we should not close the schools, we should transform them. One thing with this with coronavirus is good is that because we realized we can learn in a distant way. So that opens up beautiful possibilities. There are many teachers who are actually of mediocre standard. They don't love what they do. They do it for livelihood, not really out of passion. But there are outstanding pedagogues, outstanding teachers who understand their subject very well, who love their subject very well. So why don't we give them chance to record their courses and make constant competition so that we get 10, 15 of wonderful courses, beautiful immersion. You go into that and then you get 1,000 technicians, 1,000 software developers and artists and designers and 1,000 talented pedagogues. Bring them together, let them work together, and they create beautiful VR environment. You put on the glass and then you go into the chemistry room and then you take 1 oxygen, you take 2 of hydrogen, you put them together, wow, H2O, 1 molecule of water is there. And then you can combine and you can play and then you see what is the spin, what is the, I don't know the English words, of the different characteristics. What is the mass, how many electrons are there, what happens when the electrons move from this orbit to another orbit. So many things. And you can play, you can explore, you can be stuck there for 1 week. In 1 week you're done with chemistry. Isn't it beautiful? It's fantastic. But at the same time we need a human touch. We need a human connection. Just warmth of the friend and the loving environment. So I believe that we should have certain resorts, natural, where children can live for the entire week, 5 days, with access to all the laboratories, all the VR and all these things. And be together. And the teachers, the conventional teachers, they don't have to teach their subject. They're more like senior friends, facilitating everything and guiding, inspiring. I think that is ideal. The mixture of these technologies and the humanity, the nature. It might be expensive, but humanity is what we make of it. Today, what we have, all the problems of humanity, is because of our education. Defects in our education. That's why. And if we invest in education, we can close the jails, we can no need so much police, because there is not going to be any crime. Why there has to be crime? The human beings with the developed minds, with the developed pabula, dreaming of great things. Why they have to do crimes? Small things. Never. No, they never know they're going to do. And there has to be understanding of biology, biopsychology, how to train this body to transcend a certain basic emotions like greed and lust and all these things, and go into the higher noble emotions, how to become passionate about humanity. Food is very important. I've seen what food does to children. 1 week of vegetarian food diet completely turns the person. He becomes completely into different person. I've seen with my eyes. One friend of mine, one Didi, one yoga nun, she said, I will open one kindergarten. And it was like very homely kind of small project. For that she purchased an apartment, she purchased some different kind of toys, this and that, all the necessary things. And she started to run it. And I was not agreeing with that. I was like, why are you wasting money for this kind of project? A very small impact, maybe 8 people, maybe 10 people are there, means children. What you are going to prove? What you are going to do? She said, keep quiet, I know what I'm doing. And I remember, I came to help her with something. And I saw these children. I didn't like those children. They were very they were whining all the time, they were fighting with each other, very selfish, taking things, the toys from each other, like very unpleasant kids. And then after I thought, okay, good luck, Didi, with this. After 1 week I came back, I saw the same children, totally different. Caring for each other, so beautifully giving toys to each other, and such a loving environment was there. I asked Didi, what have you done to those children? She said, nothing. It is just the atmosphere of love. It is just proper diet. They were non-vegetarian. Now I'm giving them vegetarian diet. I don't know what the parents give, but I give this, and they are changing. Day by day they are changing. All those traumas in the family, the families are fighting, they are tense or something, it's not harmonious. So children, they are like sponges, they take it in. But now, when they came to the ocean of love, so they suck that love in, and they become love. So that's very important. And there are many things, like vegetarian diet, like exercises, like different games, all that can tune the human structure so nicely that becomes a different person. The person himself will not recognize himself. What have become of me? Why I became? Within 3 months, within 1 week, the transformation happens. Then another idea, another very, very, very important idea is the idea of unity. What are the problems of society? We feel isolated. I am, they are. And because I am, so I have to take care first about myself, me, myself, and I. And sometimes I exploit others. I mean, what's the problem in society? It's exploitation, lack of harmony by the products of our educations. And we need to create like a park, like a humanist park, the neo-humanist park. I don't know how to make it. So many heads have to think about it. But the environment, where we study and realize unity. I have to realize that this birch tree and me are connected. I'm breathing the air which the birch tree is also breathing. She is breathing my air, I am breathing her air. And we are connected. We are interdependent. I cannot exist without her. She cannot exist without me. This ant, I am interconnected. I depend on that ant. So the environment where we will practically realize our interdependence, where we can realize the wholeness, the entirety of existence, and start to think not as I and them, but as we. And when it comes not from book, okay, we can read these kind of ideas, but when you realize, when you see, when you feel it very strongly, you are going to be a different person. You are going to live for the welfare and happiness of all. So how to create such an environment? That's we have to think about. And then the third thing is to introduce more game into education. I was impressed. One acquaintance of mine, he is running the school in USA, calling it progressive school. So one time mother came and said, you know, my kid always is playing some games, some stupid games in your school. When they are going to study? And then somehow the director, he convinced the mother, you be calm, it's okay. He is going to pass the exams. So they were playing the games on the history lessons. They were staging different games, different battles, or they were making the costumes, everything, the decorations. And they were playing like one month they were playing this battle. And then not studying basically, but playing. But then after 5 years she came back to him and apologized. She said, I owe you an apology. My son, he has become so good at history. He won all the Olympics, you know, like academic Olympics. Because he became so interested. So reading about the events that they were playing, it became not dry, it's so nice, it's so juicy. In all the books and archives, everywhere. His knowledge became like such a great knowledge, actually. He became like an authority, like an expert on a subject of history. Because he liked that. They played. One friend of mine recently told me, he said that, Dada, after the school and university, I feel so much aversion to reading books. I don't want at all. Any knowledge is just, I feel resistance. How horrible is that? I mean, a child is naturally curious. Nature is like a sponge, he wants to know everything. But we have created such an educative system which is so boring, so oppressive. You feel like, finally over, I'm out of school, I am never gonna study again in my life. But in the 21st century, that's what we need. We need a continuous self-improvement, continuous study, because the skills that we are getting today are going to be outdated tomorrow. So we need, above all things, we need love for knowledge and enjoyment. Joy. If there is no joy, then there is no motivation. What for I am living? Everybody is living for joy. And if I am to study, I also study for joy, not for money. Okay, money is like is a little bit complicated. I will study for money, I will get money, and money will give me joy. Not like that. If I study and I get joy immediately, not after 30 years or not after 15 years, but now itself, the process itself gives me so much joy. Then, so I think these are simple ideas, but till now it was not implemented. So the first, idea of infinity, idea of God, of the perfection. Second, idea of unity. We all are one. We are interconnected, interdependent. Pain of Your pain is my pain. Your joy is my joy. This realization. And third, I enjoy my education. I don't want to come home actually, because I love my school. I love to be there. I love to play. I love to explore. I love to know so many things. I think today, coming back to the VR, today, if somebody will invest money, put together 1,000 software engineers and designers and pedagogues, and create these beautiful virtual environments for learning, I think that can be a great moving forward for the country, because today is not about natural resources, it's about people, human brains. So if we are to progress, we need to invest into the humans, and that is the first thing that we need to change, is our educational system. Why are we not daring? Why we are not experimenting? We have become just like that elephant. The small elephant was tied with a tiny rope to the tiny tree. He tried and tried, but he couldn't break free from the tree. And then now he is grown up, big one. The tree, to the small tree, he is still tied with a tiny rope. He can easily break, but he is conditioned. It's like that. So he's not trying. So as a humanity, we are not trying. We are not trying. We are not searching. We are not attempting to do better. And we can. We can do. I mean, we can establish a paradise on this earth, but we need to change the perspective. We need to change the perspective. And that is better to do in an early age. Meditation helps also to change that perspective. I would introduce meditation to the schools. That's the most powerful transformational tool. One of my friends, he was somewhere in USA. He was invited to a public school, and then it was so noisy, so crazy, so totally uncontrollable. So the teacher, she brought him in, and she said, "Okay, Dada, enjoy the class." And she took off. And then when she came back, all the children are so quiet and smiling and beautiful. She's like, "Huh? This is impossible." But with just, the children are so receptive. They can feel the divinity. They are just coming off that infinite source. They just recently been there. They can feel it, they can perceive it. So he guided them to feel that emotion. They sat. They didn't want to stop meditating. Ah, what a beautiful experience. So if we introduce different principles of yoga and meditation and diet and these ideas into our education, I think we can change our society within 20-30 years. Namaskar.